I want you to look at both of these. Take your time. One of them I stood in the dark for. I drove 2 hours to get there. My back was already aching before I pulled the tripod out of the truck. I stood in the field for over an hour, in the cold, in the dark, waiting for the moment that might not come. The one on the right took seconds. A text prompt, an algorithm, a machine that has never been anywhere. And I need you to sit with something uncomfortable right now, because your first instinct when you see these two images side by side is going to tell you something important about where you are in this conversation. If you looked at the AI image and felt relieved because you could see the difference immediately, stay with me, because what I'm about to show you is going to complicate that relief. If you looked at the AI image and felt something close to fear, stay with me too, because what I'm about to tell you is more nuanced than fear deserves. This episode is for every photographer watching right now. Landscape, portrait, commercial, wedding, hobbyist. 20 years in, 20 days in. What is happening to the craft affects all of you. And most of what you have heard about it so far is either too optimistic or too afraid to be useful. So let's actually talk about it. I'm going to make you a promise before we go any further. I'm not going to tell you that AI is just a tool and everything is fine. I'm also not going to tell you photography is dead and you should panic. Both of those positions are wrong, and neither is actually serving the photographers who are trying to figure out what comes next. Here is where I actually stand. AI has permanently changed parts of the photography industry. Some of those changes are devastating for real people with real careers and real income that's disappearing right now. And at the same time, the kind of photography that moves people, the kind that earns its place on a wall or stops someone mid-scroll and makes them feel something they cannot immediately name, is not only surviving this moment, in some ways, it has never been more necessary. Both of those things are true simultaneously, and I refuse to give you just one of them, because the tension between them is where the useful thinking lives. Let me start with the part that most photography educators will not touch. Certain photography markets are in serious, immediate, irreversible trouble. Stock photography as it existed 10 years ago is effectively gone. The market for images that could have been made by anyone on any decent day with any decent camera in any recognizable location, that market has been undercut by AI to a degree that is not recoverable. Corporate headshots, product catalog images, real estate photography, generic social media content. These are the sectors where AI has already won, and the photographers who built their income on that work are having to make hard decisions right now. If your photography income depended on that kind of work that AI can now produce faster and cheaper, I'm not going to give you false comfort. That market has changed, and it's not changing back. But here's the thing I need you to understand before we go any further. The images that AI is replacing were never the reason anyone fell in love with photography. They were the floor, the commercial floor that kept a lot of photographers working, and that floor has dropped. And what AI cannot teach is everything above that floor. And that's where the conversation gets interesting. Let me show you exactly what I mean. I'm going to generate an image right now. There it is. And I want you to be clear about something. This is not a bad image. If I showed you this without telling you how it was made, most people would not immediately question it. The colors are warm, the composition follows the rules, the light looks dramatic. But now let me show you something. Look at the light source. Where is the sun in this image? You cannot tell. The light is everywhere and nowhere at the same time. It looks dramatic because it was designed to look dramatic. But it doesn't belong to a specific moment, at a specific time of day, in a specific place on Earth. Now look at the trees. These are autumn trees in a general sense. They are not aspens at a specific elevation in the South Okanagan in the third week of October when the color is exactly at its peak. They are the idea of autumn trees, constructed from 10,000 photographs of 10,000 trees, none of which were exactly seen by anything that assembled them. And here is something almost nobody in this conversation is talking about. Zoom in. Most AI-generated images are rendered at a resolution that looks completely convincing on a screen. Sharp enough for Instagram, sharp enough for a website, sharp enough to fool you at a normal viewing distance. If you wanted to print this image at 20 by 30 inches and hang it on a wall, you would see exactly what it is. Interpolated, a surface that holds together at distance and falls apart up close. My Pentax K1 captures 36 megapixels of actual photographic information. Real light, real shadow, real texture, recorded at the moment of capture from a real place on Earth. I can print that file at 40 inches, 60 inches, and larger, and it still holds detail, because the detail was actually there. The AI image was assembled. Mine was recorded. And for every photographer who's watching this who sells prints, who produces work for walls rather than screens, that distinction is not a small advantage. That's the entire game. That difference might sound small. It's not small. It's everything. I made this image in the Monashee Mountains in British Columbia, Canada, June 10th, 2023, 5:37 a.m. I'd been there 5 or 6 times before. The same shoreline, the same stumps rising out of the water. Every visit felt close, but never right. Wrong season, wrong light, no atmosphere. It was always almost. And almost doesn't photograph, so I kept coming back. Not chasing a shot, just wanting for the conditions to arrive. That morning they did. The mist settled low along the tree line, exactly where it needed to be. Not drifting, not guessing, placed. It separated the stumps just enough from the forest behind them, giving each one space to exist. At 5:30 a.m. on that date, at that latitude, the light comes in soft and low. Everything aligned. The water held just enough stillness to carry the reflections without losing them. The forest softened into the background. Depth wasn't created, it appeared. And here's the part that matters. That mist isn't an interpretation, it's a fact. An AI image can create something that looks like this. It can place shadows that feel right, but it isn't where the mist looks right. This is where it is right. The difference might sound small. It isn't small, it's everything. Here's the second comparison, and this one I find more revealing. The AI image of this location has been photographed thousands of times. The prompt was easy to write because the visual vocabulary is enormous. The machine had an ocean of reference material to draw from. And the results look like every photograph from that location you've ever seen, because it was built from all of them. My photograph is not of a famous place. The location doesn't appear on any photography destination list. I left early and drove to the Coquihalla Connector in the dark with no real plan, just knowing that there would be some fall color emerging in the higher altitudes. Near Aspen Grove. I turned into a random forestry road and followed it until something felt right. When the light came, it came from the side, just enough to bring the grove to life. The trees, the grass, the hint of fall starting to turn. Just a quiet moment that was there and then wasn't. No algorithm would have sent me there. No prompt would have described it. The AI image is more recognizable. Mine is more true. And I believe with everything that I've learned in 20 years making photographs, that truth is what people are actually hungry for, even when they can't name what they're responding to. This is where I want to slow down, because most photographers are asking the wrong question about all of this. They're asking, will AI replace me? And that's not the question. The question is my work replaceable? Those are not the same thing. If you could describe your photograph in a single text prompt and get something functionally similar back from an AI generator, that's information worth sitting with honestly. Not panicking over, not dismissing either, sitting with. It doesn't make you a bad photographer. It doesn't mean you have wasted your time. It means your work has not yet developed a signature that a machine cannot approximate. And that's something you can change. Every photographer I genuinely admire has a way of seeing that belongs to them alone. Not a preset, not a color grade, not a compositional formula. A way of moving through the world that determines what they stop for, what they notice before anyone else does, what they recognize as worth the exposure at exactly the right second. That seeing is not learned in one afternoon. It's built over years of showing up. Years of driving back to the same location because you believed it deserved another attempt. You can't prompt that into existence. You can't generate it. You can only earn it. And the photographers who have earned it are not losing sleep over AI because they understand that what they bring to a location cannot be typed into a text field. Here's where I have to be honest about something I can't resolve for you. I told you at the beginning I was going to give you a clean answer, and I'm keeping that promise now. Because there is a part of this that genuinely concerns me. Not for photographers who have already built a body of work with a point of view behind it. For photographers just beginning. When I was learning this craft, there was a floor. A long, slow, uncomfortable, necessary floor of making photographs that did not work. Thousands of frames that were wrong in ways I didn't yet have the vocabulary to understand. Light I couldn't read. Compositions that almost worked, but never quite did. That maddening gap between what I saw with my eye and what the camera recorded. That floor is where seeing is built. That confusion is where your eye actually develops. Not in the moments of success, in the moments of failure that force you to go back and figure out why. And here's what I genuinely don't know. If a photographer starting out today can skip that floor, can generate technically accomplished images from a prompt without even failing in the field, without ever standing in a location not knowing what to do next, without ever driving home with nothing useful on the memory card, what do they lose? What do we all lose when there's no longer a necessary apprenticeship of confusion? I don't have a clean answer to that, and I'm suspicious of anyone who tells you they do. What I do believe is this. The photographers who go through the floor, who accept the long, unglamorous, essential process of learning to see by failing to see. Those photographers will have something on the other side of this moment that no amount of AI development will be able to touch. The ones who skip the floor may produce images that are beautiful, but they won't know why. And eventually that will show. So where does this leave you? I want to speak to each of you directly for a moment. If you are a working photographer whose income depends on work that AI can produce faster and cheaper, I'm not going to offer you false comfort. The market has changed, and it's not changing back. But here's what the market cannot change. It can't automate a point of view, and it can't generate presence. It can't produce evidence that a human being was somewhere and saw something and made a decision exactly at the right moment. Move toward that. Move toward specificity of a place. Move towards images that carry information no prompt could contain. Move toward work that makes someone feel they are standing somewhere real with someone real, looking at something that will not exist again. That work has a market. It always has. And right now, surrounded by an ocean of generated images that look correct but feel like nothing, that work is becoming more valuable, not less. If you're a hobbyist or someone building a photography practice because you love the craft and want to go deeper, AI is clarifying something that was always true, but easy to ignore. The camera was never the point. The software was never the point. The gear sitting on your shelf was never the point. You were always the point. Your eye, your patience, your willingness to stand in conditions that are not comfortable and wait for something that may not arrive. Your ability to recognize it when it does. AI cannot replicate a photographer who has developed those things. It can only reveal whether you have. And if the honest answer right now is that you have not developed them yet fully, that is not a failure. That is simply where you are. The light is still there. The field is still waiting. There's still time to earn your eye. And if you're just starting out, the most valuable thing I can tell you right now is this. Don't let AI teach you what a good photograph looks like. Go outside and fail. Go back and fail again. Let the confusion of the field build something in you that no generator can approximate. Because the photographers who come through this moment with a genuine eye and a genuine point of view are going to stand out in a world of generated images, the way human voice stands out in a room full of recordings, immediately, undeniably, without explanation. If you're working on your eye as a landscape photographer, my free ebook is a good place to start. The link is in the description below. I want to go back to the two images I showed you at the beginning. One was assembled by a machine that has never been cold, never been disappointed, never driven 2 hours in the dark on the chance that the light might come. One was made by a person who did all those things and came back until that morning finally arrived. Both images exist now. Both will continue to exist. The world has more images in it than it has ever had, and that number is accelerating every single day. In that world, the question is not whether you can make an image. Anyone can make an image now. The question is whether yours carries something inside it that cannot be repeated. Evidence of a specific moment, a specific place, a specific human being who chose to be there. That's what photography has always been at its best. Not a record of what something looked like, a record of what it felt like to be present when the light came. AI cannot be present. That's the only thing that has ever actually separated a photograph from an image. Photography is not dying. It's demanding something of you. The same thing it's always demanded, and that some photographers were never quite willing to give. A reason to show up, a point of view that belongs to no one else. Proof that you were there. The light doesn't wait, and neither should we.